Welcome to HR Voices, real talk with people leaders who are in it every day. We get into the messy stuff, the challenges that keep them up at night, and how they're actually fixing them. No corporate fluff, just smart conversations for people who care about people. HR Voices is brought to you by All Voices, the platform that cuts hours of manual HR work with step-by-step workflows and AI to assist with investigations, performance improvement, accommodations, leave requests, and more, so you can get back to the human side of HR. Welcome to HR Voices. I'm your host, Emily Fennick, and today I get to chat with Rodrigo Tajonar, who is the Chief Human Resources Officer at the Boston Globe. Welcome, Rodrigo.
Thank you so much, Emily. Pleasure to be here.
Yes, I usually start with context on the organization that my guests work for, but I'm pretty sure everybody knows what the Boston Globe is. And if you don't, you might be living under a rock. But could you tell us a little bit more about the Boston Globe and just specifically more the people that you support that work there, what they're like, what the organization is like, and about your role as the Chief Human Resources Officer?
Thank you. So it'll be interesting. I think it depends on who you ask. Definitely Boston people understand Boston Globe, but hopefully we have people that are in other states that have no idea who the Boston Globe company is. So I'm excited to work and lead HR for Boston Globe Media. We're a Pulitzer Prize winning news organization that serves Boston and New England. We have other verticals that we are working, like STAT, which supports journalism on life sciences for the US. And we started actually working in Europe as well. And we have other sites like Boston.com, Global Opinion. And recently we acquired a magazine that it's called Boston Magazine. So we focus on newspapers still, which is it's an important part of our business, and digital platforms. It's a great company to work for. I've been here for 3 years and a half. Awesome people, very smart people, very dedicated and passionate. And I've learned a lot from each one of the employees in the company. Senior leaders, my managers. And I mean, talking about news, there's breakout news, pretty often. So it's not easy to manage. And I really admire everything that everyone in this company is doing.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you for giving us more detail on the Globe. As we think about it's the end of the year as we're recording this, and I think I can't stop thinking about next year. Everyone's planning for next year. So what's on your mind as we look at the year ahead, as you think about the people working at the Globe? What sort of challenges are top of mind for you as we move into a new season?
Yeah, it's interesting how time flies. We always ask ourselves, oh, it's December. Where's the year, right? So every year time flies so fast, but I can tell you at least a couple ones. And this is my favorite topic always, culture. There's a say that culture can eat strategy by breakfast. And I agree. Building culture in an environment where there are still many employees working remotely, working on a hybrid model, or companies that are encouraging or forcing employees to come into the office. It's not easy. The Zoom fatigue, less interaction before COVID, and collaboration, it's also a challenge. Aligning the company's mission, vision, and employees' values with the real world action is a challenge. So all this connects with attraction and retention and engagement. I'm happy to share with you that recently I had the pleasure of going to the MIT H Lab, and I had the pleasure of knowing Dr. Joe Coughlin, who is the founder and the director of the lab. And there's a concept that he's managing that it's called rust out. What he says is, as an average, that 1 out of 5 workers are actually and really engaged in the workplace. Some are only going through the motion, and some just attend and get paid, and that's okay for them. But it's really not burnout. It's what he's calling erosion. It's the loss of creativity. So I think as we talk and we think about the people that come into our offices or to connect to Zoom calls, etc., ask ourselves, how many people do you really think are engaged? And when they attend to a meeting or they are leading a project, are they really engaged and motivated to lead it with passion, with energy? I can give you an example. New generations want to be mentored, follow a leader, but really a passionate leader. And if that leader is not engaged, then we don't have a perfect formula for success. Employees as an overall, and I put myself in that example, they want to continue progressing, right? So it's how do we continue sustaining things that make sense, but we are open as a company to adjust and understand different generations and needs. So that's culture as a summary for me, that it's always a challenge and it's not easy.
No.
The other challenge for 2026, as you are asking for, is AI. I think this is on top of mind for everyone. AI and digital tools are evolving so fast. By the second, there's more utilities for so many tools out there. But I think there's more that only using ChatGPT as a Google search, right? How do you actually stay on top of mind around what it's really the need of a company? And in our case, as a media outlet, there are many implications. Just an example of fact checking, right? Learning, using information, and talking about AI. And I can give you more examples. That's one topic that it's going to be evolving by the second, and we need to stay on top of that.
I mean, absolutely. That's a lot. Let's unpack it a little bit. I want to go back out. I want to go back to the word rust out because, I what I hear is burnout all the time. Employees are burnt out, too much, mental health. That's a very real problem. But it would be interesting for me. Can we unpack burnout versus rest out? What that looks like? How HR leaders spot the difference? And I think I know what the difference is. I'd like to hear from you. But then, what do we do about each one? What's the remedy for burnout versus the remedy for rest out?
Yeah. So being very honest, this is recently the first time that I heard about roast out,
Same.
and I'm going to be using more what Dr. Joe is actually using. I'm not an expert in it.
Mhm.
In burnout, I think we've been using that personally also in my house and with my family for so many years. So burnout, the way that I see it, that I've sensed it personally as well, is you work so many hours, you are not able to be as productive as you were. You are not, and I would say happy, right? You're not excited. You have so many personal things that you need to manage as well. If you have family or not, or activities within the family, or other things outside of work, that eventually you're not sleeping well, and as an overall, you're not productive, and there are many implications around health that could actually impact because of burnout. Rust out is basically how you keep people engaged. Burnout is one factor that could definitely keep people engaged or not, but rust out is more than that. And the examples that I gave, perhaps just not limited to, is people connecting in Zoom all the time, right? Is that exciting? And I remember before COVID, when I was in the office the whole time, walking through the hall and going to get a coffee, you connected with one person next to you. And in 2 seconds, perhaps you had a joke, you talk about their personal life, or you solve the matter of work in 2 seconds. Now is connecting with people and getting things solved and really making things happen. It's not as easy as it was, or it's different. I wouldn't say easy necessarily, but how am I really engaged, and what are the companies doing to keep people engaged as an overall? Well, it's a different scenario. You ask me, how are companies or an overall doing things? What are we doing? I can tell you that. Is for burnout. I mean, there are many ways, but I think the instrumental going around culture is managers understanding and connecting with their employees to understand how they are feeling, to understand if there are hiccups, if to understand if there are things that they need help with from a professional tools, skills development, but also from a personal perspective, because I mean, you don't know what each one of our employees are actually going through. And having a connection with each one of your employees to understand that is important. And then after that, you can actually talk to HR, or you can talk to the other manager on top of you, et cetera, to try to manage it and solve it. For rust out, you as a manager have a responsibility to keep people engaged, but you also trust the company to create programs to create perhaps a philosophy around engagement and asking managers, once again, to connect with people. I think it's very important. And if they are working remotely, how can you keep them close to you as much as possible? I understand that if you're a manager living in the US and you have people reporting to you in Germany, you cannot travel every other week. But there could be definitely ways that you can do things different. We in the company we implemented a project that I'm very happy to share that the HR team is leading. It's called Let's Connect. It started with an idea of free food, right? I think everyone loves free food, and they come and you get your donut or whatever, your bagel. And at least in 2 seconds, if you have an opportunity to introduce yourself to the next one or the person next to you, it's phenomenal. But we increased that in terms of having leadership lunches with the CEO and myself. And we're trying to meet with as many people in the company as we can. We currently have targeted over almost 50% of the organization in 3 years for leadership lunches. So we give them an opportunity to ask those questions that they want that are unasked or unresolved or unanswered. So that's one. But not only within our main offices. There are many people that are not working in your corporate offices that you need to connect with. So the Let's Connect program is extending to do something more and creating an engagement process and program among our different facilities. I would say that's something to start with, but it's an interesting concept, Rust Out.
No, it is. And it's funny how connection seems to be a shared remedy for both, right? Just listening to people and connecting. I know they look different, but it feels like if it was like a Venn diagram, I'm picturing like burnout and rust out being so related, right? You have so much to do, you're so overwhelmed that eventually you're like, what is the point of this? And your engagement just plummets, right? Like people hit that breaking point, and maybe that's where one transitions into the other, right? So, and I love the Let's Connect program at our organization. We're all remote, but there's several people that sort of live in different little geographic clusters. And if they want to get together for coffee, for lunches, for fun, our company funds that just to encourage people like where they can to just get together. Cause I mean, it's something so simple as grabbing coffee, grabbing lunch, like can help a certain type of person feel more connected. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It's something so simple, right? That has a lot of impact.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Well, let's get to the second challenge you mentioned, which was AI. It's a doozy. AI is everywhere and it's just changing everything. You also mentioned fact checking. And I think as a media organization, you must have sort of unique challenges around AI because as I talk to HR leaders, a common theme is that we should use AI as an input, not an output, meaning it helps you think. It shouldn't do the thinking for you, right? It helps you refine. It shouldn't be your source. So how do you think about that as a people leader at a media organization? And how do your people think about it?
So I can share some examples about the company, and then I'll give some more around HR. So you said it even better. The fact checking in the type of our company as an input versus an output. It's important because you can actually post a story that if you only used ChatGPT to say, "Hey, what did this person did in or do in 1979?" And ChatGPT will give you the information that it's in it, but it's not necessarily a fact or it's not the truth. So if we do that mistake as reporters, then we'll be in a lot of problems and trouble. So what we are currently doing is definitely there has to be policies around it that we implemented with the help of the legal department, the newsrooms, and such. One interesting one is using AI as an advantage to our reporters is, let's assume that you are writing a story and the story is phenomenal and you have whatever number of words within your story, but you have no idea how to write the headline and you want to connect, right? When you open any media outlet or website, being very honest, the first thing that you read is the headline, and it needs to be attractive and connected with what it's your desire and passions, right? So we currently have a tool that was developed in-house that you can actually either upload your full story or main ideas of your story, and it gives you specific examples of headlines that you can use. And it's evolving because of the information that we've been using internally within the company, so that at least we don't use the same headline twice. So that has been very helpful, at least from an idea generation, right? It doesn't mean that you need to copy and paste exactly what that tool is giving you, but I've heard from reporters that it has been very helpful. The other thing is, we currently in a media company, and I think this relates to many media companies, we do not only compete with other media companies, we compete with people's money, their bucket, right? So we're currently competing around the Netflix, the Amazons, because some people is like, I do not necessarily want to have in my directory of apps a media outlet. I want to have an entertainment app. So having said that, is we need to connect with our subscribers and keep them engaged in the best possible way. How does AI will continue helping us out is understanding data, understanding what our subscribers are in the need for, that each subscriber is different. Where can we meet them? Can we meet them halfway, full way? Can we create different verticals so that we keep them more engaged? How about our photos? How about you name it? So AI from a data analysis perspective has and will continue to be very helpful for us in terms of understanding the data from our subscribers. And that's a piece of gold information so that we can actually keep them as subscribers and engaged within our platforms. From an HR perspective, I'm all in favor of eliminating operational work and investing more time about how HR really can work on the strategy and connecting with employees. When you call or connect with a call center, at least that's my example. I'd love to talk to a representative. Those people or virtual bots that are saying, "Hey, what's your need?" and eventually you don't have the formal response. It's not as engaging. So I'm using that as an example for HR because I want our employees to have an HR presence as much as possible, so that at least we can understand the culture, their needs, their passions. One example is we are in the process of rolling out an internal HR bot, but it's more for the operational things that employees usually ask for. How many vacations days do I have? What's the policy for X? And even though we have information in our websites, sometimes it's not as easy perhaps to ask a bot. And that's something that we are working on. That will help us simplify, speed up the responses to our employees, help them focus on their job, and then from an HR perspective, focus less on the operational tasks and focus more on the strategy. So a few examples around that I'm sure if we talk about this topic in 6 months from now, that will be evolving and perhaps change it from now.
Yeah, absolutely. And most people that I talk with in HR, it feels like, I'll go out on a limb and say this, in 2025, if you haven't started automating those sort of tier 1 requests from HR, you're really missing out, because you can do it, and you can do it in multiple ways. You can build it internally. There's apps like Kinfolk that I'm a big fan of that can help you with that. There's Zapier. They have a great HR guide for how to automate it. There's lots of different paths that could work for your organization, but it just seems like such a great use case of exactly what AI can help us with, which is that knowledge base function, right? I met with a woman, Kelly Morse, who's the chief people officer at Bullhorn. She said she gets 15,000 emails a year. I'll have to go back and check the episode, but the majority of them are those tier 1 repetitive requests where, at first you could be afraid, like, oh, you don't want to give them that bad customer service. Press 1, or, make them feel frustrated. But if AI is really good at answering your question and answering it quickly on a very easy tier 1 request, everybody wins, right?
I
So
agree.
I'm willing to say that 2026, if you haven't automated that piece yet, you got to make some phone calls.
I'm with you. You're already late.
You're a little late. Yeah. And I know we're all getting started and we like to say nobody's late, but on that one, I'll go out there on a limb and I'll say, you got to automate those.
Exactly.
Anything else top of mind in terms of things you'd like to experiment with next year or things that you're excited about in terms of the future of work?
So one thing that I would love to test different is the way that we develop and train our employees. And perhaps this connects with AI as well. So you might remember perhaps back in time, you went to some seminars or trainings, 2 or 3 days trainings, and eventually, which was the outcome? Perhaps you might remember something the first day after it, but the week after, perhaps 50%, and the month after, perhaps zero, right? And it was a lot of investment that companies used to do. Learning and development has been evolving. And I'm using TikTok as an example, right? And I have a teenage daughter that, I mean, she uses TikTok for everything. But using that on the good side is how do we evolve learning and development and AI, where eventually you can ask, perhaps, for example, the HR bot that we want to roll out. Hey, I have a situation where I need to deliver feedback, and this is the situation of this employee. And then instead of just receiving a guideline, because you can actually get that from ChatGPT currently. It's good information, it's guidelines, right? But there are some that I'm just thinking out loud that if an AI tool can help you create material that in a 2-minute video can give you the fundamentals and perhaps play with you in terms of, look, do this, do not do that, and show you how to navigate, how to set your office, how to set your screen, you name it. Something very short and sweet versus saying you need to come to the training that is going to take 2 hours of your time. And some people might say, oh, it's too long, boring, bye, I will not go there. So going with culture, we need to continue training and sustaining leaders and new generations, new managers, trainings, I mean, 101, etc., but keep sustaining the basics and fundamentals of what a manager is.
Absolutely.
And they cannot get everything from a coach or from a mentor, but I'm sure that if they have a tool that could make it way simpler and easier versus always coming to HR because we don't have unlimited resources to help them out, I think that would be helpful. So I'm really seeking to do things different for next year, and that's another one. That how can we make managers and employees' lives easier and simpler?
Yeah, I would love to check in with you and just see what you're learning, what you're discovering, because that seems like such a great use case of, we've all been to training sessions. And then again, we talked about AI as a knowledge base. I also love to think of AI as like your of helping us with our very flawed human memory. You take a course 6 months later, you're in the moment. It's time to sort of like put into action everything you learned in that course. I know that I won't remember it. I need something that's more in the moment, like exactly what I need when I need it. And I do love the idea of also like practicing with a neutral party. AI is neutral. It doesn't judge you. It's not
Exactly.
real. And so, you can maybe get some of your nerves out. Conflict is hard for people. We can pretend like it's not, or we can work around it, right? And, to have someone to work out your nerves with for those conversations that require conflict, right? I see that as a really awesome use case. I'd love to see how that turns out for you.
Exactly. I'll let you know. I promise.
Okay, great. Well, we've tackled a lot. We've covered a lot of ground today, Rodrigo. Mm, Last words of advice or encouragement for the HR folks that might be listening.
Be humble. We don't know it all. Things are evolving so fast. And even though I'm sure that there are so many HR professionals that have been doing HR for so many years and perhaps navigating with different centers of excellence, continue learning, continue adjusting, continue listening. I know that sometimes, and I learned this within my career, is I wanted to be friends with everyone, but it's impossible. Me being a Latino is like, yeah, friends with everyone. So it's impossible. But I've learned I can be friendly and try to help them out. So that'll be my suggestion. I mean, try to help them as much as possible. But also we have a business and a company to run, and there are policies, guidelines, performance that we need to implement. So do not be shy, test, practice, ask for help, work with your network. There are so many people out there that have already done many things that, I mean, still shamelessly, right? So that's okay. So I can stay here for hours, but perhaps short and sweet, those will be my suggestions.
Yeah. Be humble, be friendly, but remember you can't be everybody's friend.
Exactly.
Great advice.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Rodrigo. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Emily. You too, and happy holidays.